All right, welcome back to the State of Gaming podcast and our E3 special. In part one, we're going to be talking about Nintendo. So, take us away.
All right, so I think Nintendo actually has the most potential to be the best conference or whatever video at E3 this year, just because they have to convince the viewer to buy their Switch console, especially coming up the holiday season. They want to create a good lineup of games that are going to be coming up. So first off, we know for sure that this is going to be at E3, Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
And from what we've seen so far, it seems more like a throwback to Mario 64 in the sense that it's going to be more of an open-ended level, at least from what we've seen. So they're taking a more realistic aesthetic to the game. So now it's looking a bit more like Sonic Adventure 2 might, rather than, let's say, Sonic the Hedgehog's 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this game does have a lot of potential because in the past, if we look at every other Mario installment, I don't think there's ever really been a case where Mario's been a bad game. Or
yeah, that's true.
I think the most mediocre one we can even pull out was maybe New Super Mario Bros. On the Wii U because the formula was getting stale. But as a main 3D installment, I think that Mario does have a lot of potential as a game, and I'm more than excited to see more of it. I think we'll see more of that hub world where it looks like New York City, it's New Donk City or whatever. And yeah, I think that game is going to be great.
Mario's been surprisingly consistent. I don't remember what year it came out when Super Mario Galaxy came out.
Yeah.
That was huge. It was like everyone's praising it. You know, like everyone just talks. No one seems to talk about Mario as being as big as it still kind of is. You know, like
absolutely.
Like, yeah, it's not the same maybe as it was for people our age as it was back in the day when you're playing the old school ones, but they're still putting out really good games, and we know Nintendo can put out really good games because the new Zelda, too, kind of reinvented the franchise in a good way.
So hopefully that Mario can do the same thing with
yeah.
Odyssey, as I think 3D World maybe fell a bit under the radar. I mean, it was still a very good game. It got a lot of praise, but I think in comparison to Galaxy, it didn't quite match up to it, or Galaxy 2 for that matter. But it was still a very good game, and I think that there's a lot of potential for Odyssey to break that mold and to be the next great Mario game, just because they're all pretty much great.
Yeah.
So I think there's not much else we can say because there really has only been one video we're working off of here.
Definitely be a staple of their keynote or whatever you want to call their presentation.
It's gonna be a console seller for sure. Like, that's gonna be
at
one point bundled in. Yeah, it's gonna be a reason to buy a Switch, and for me, it's personally the only thing that I'm looking to buy a Switch for. But hopefully, the next games on this list will push me to get it as well. So next up, the thing that I think we're also gonna see. This is pretty likely at this point. There's been confirmed DLC for the new Zelda.
Yeah.
And we know what each of those things is going to be. There's going to be a hard mode, there's going to be new adventures, dungeons, a new story, and maybe this is heading into spoiler territory. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the way that the game ended led us to believe there could be some more going on after the credits roll.
As most games do these days.
Exactly, right. So, like, selling the rest of the game as DLC. And, I mean, this is Nintendo we're talking about, and I don't want to end up hating them, and they're probably the only people who use DLC in a way that I like. If we look at Super Smash Bros. Or Mario Kart, I think all those DLCs were solid for both of those games, and I really hope this lives up to it. Selling a hard mode was a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, I'll be honest. I'm hoping that they really shake things up with that, maybe add in a different dungeon design, different enemy layouts, really just change it up a little bit.
Really make it deep like New Game Plus and Dark Souls.
Exactly. I want to see something more like that to really make me want to get it. Although, to be honest, Zelda Breath of the Wild was so good that I'm going to have a hard time not buying the DLC.
And they know that.
Yeah, they know they got us by the balls. It's okay. It's Nintendo. That's actually like the rule of the internet. It's okay. It's Nintendo.
Yeah, they're allowed.
Right. So, not much else to say about that. We've seen nothing, but I'm hoping that it's at least it looks good when we see some footage this E3. Hopefully, the next game on the list. Actually, for most of the next games on the list, we don't know much about it. It's all gonna be speculation, which is why, again, I'm saying I have a lot of hope for Nintendo this conference because they can really blow us away with the footage that we're gonna see for these games. So next up, we got Xenoblade Chronicles 2. The first game in that franchise was hugely popular. And it actually came back as a 3DS remake on I wouldn't say reboot or remake. It was just more of a port. They actually lowered the graphics a little bit, but they made it portable, and it actually brought more attention to the series, like Super Smash Bros. Wii U did, when adding in Shulk. And although this does seem to be a separate game from the series, like it's not connected to the events of Xenoblade Chronicles 1. The first game was so popular that I think that this could convince a lot of RPG fans or JRPG fans to join in on the Switch. And I'd like to see some more, considering that the narrative of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was considered to be really strong. And I'm a guy who loves narrative in games. I know you do too.
Yeah, definitely.
But for now, we don't know too much. I'm assuming it'll have some of the same combat structure as the first one. It's mostly automated, but it's happening in real time. There's no random battles, really. And a big open world like the first one as well. So I'm expecting to see some more of that. I think that it might be in their best interest to maybe veer a bit away from what they tried to accomplish in Xenoblade Chronicles X. Not that that was a bad game. It's just that I think calling it Xenoblade Chronicles 2 makes it sound as if it's going to be a more loyal successor to the first one rather than a sequel to X, which was a bit different in terms of tone and in terms of narrative than Xenoblade Chronicles 1. So next, I think this is what's going to get a lot of people excited for the Switch, and it's the two new Fire Emblem games that they were discussing. One, we have the Warrior style game in the vein of Hyrule Warriors or Dynasty Warriors, where you're going to have all the popular characters from the Fire Emblem series, and you'll be able to beat up really crappy mobs with them and feel super powerful. And it's a way of just sort of tying all the lore together and to feel like you're a super fan. When you play a game like Hyrule Warriors, and you see like all the characters together, you get to play as all these characters, you get to beat up everyone. It's just fan service, and I think that they're appealing to a good market there because, I mean, Fire Emblem in total probably has somewhere close to 600 characters at this point. Yeah. Every game introduces at least like 30 to 40. And as much as I haven't played through every Fire Emblem, I love the franchise so much that I am really interested in getting it. I'd like to see what they do to make it unique. I know in Hyrule Warriors they had a few features that were really unique to Zelda that they added in, and I think they can do the same thing with Fire Emblem. The next thing is the Switch exclusive Fire Emblem that we don't know anything about. We just know that there's going to be a Fire Emblem on Switch. I guess this is going to be more like the Radiant Dawn or the Radiant Dawn series from GameCube and Wii. It's going to be more 3D, more impressive 3D graphics, and it's going to probably differ itself a little bit from the 3DS entries. We don't know too much about it, but I just figure that the models will be a little more detailed. That's probably all we can really say for now.
Hopefully we'll find out.
Yeah. There's not really too much else that's for sure going to show up at E3. The rest are a little bit more hopefuls, right? So first I want to discuss the mobile games that have been confirmed at this point. We know we're gonna see an Animal Crossing mobile app at some point, and I think that has potential to be super addictive. I know that the games are really addictive, and it's really able to pull you in and make you play nonstop. And I think that would work really well as a mobile game where you can actually visit friends' towns, or you can get special bonuses for talking to friends, for doing different social things. I think that a mobile environment is really great for Animal Crossing. The other mobile app that I'm really interested in hearing more about is the Zelda one that they confirmed. Did you hear about that?
No, I actually haven't.
They're making a Zelda for mobile. I have no idea what to expect from this. If it's going to be a spin-off from the likes of Link's Crossbow Training, or is it going to be a 2D Zelda adventure kind of like Link's Awakening, or are we going to get kind of a smaller 3D adventure? No matter what it is, I have to say I'm curious.
It's more Zelda, right? That's enough for most people.
Yeah. No one's going to complain, and if they price it around the same price as Mario Run or anything, I think people would be pretty excited to pay only $10 for a Zelda game.
And we saw how good Fallout Shelter did, and
that
wasn't that was Fallout, not Zelda.
Right.
So who knows?
If they literally just copied and pasted the same formula with Zelda, I guarantee that would sell well.
Yeah.
Alright, so now, this is more of a contentious title. I don't think a lot of people are very happy about this, but I can't say I'm excited for it, but there is Mario and the Rabbids game.
Yeah.
The crossover
saw that
there.
A few days ago. I was like, that's an interesting combination there.
Like, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the Rabbids, mostly because when I got Rayman Raving Rabbids on the Wii, I was sort of hoping for an actual Rayman franchise game, but instead of sort of a mini-game collection. And I think that maybe it threw off some of their audience, but it also got them another audience because I think people who like mini-games or like the Rabbids in the same way they like the Minions. It could sell a lot of copies. It's popular with kids. And it's what's really interesting for me is that this is like a weird crossover. Nintendo's finally partnering with Ubisoft in this strange way. They did it with Sega with Mario and Sonic, and now it's Mario and Rabbids, and it's really strange. If you saw the art from it, there's like a picture of I think there's like a rabbit in a Princess Peach outfit taking a selfie. It's bizarre, and I don't know if I could say that I'm excited for this game, but I am excited for what this might mean for Nintendo. Okay, now I'm going to start heading towards the more exciting stuff, which is the stuff that's probably not going to happen, but I really want to happen. Stuff. Maybe next decade stuff. But all right, so there's really 4 games that I'm really hoping for that probably won't happen, but I hope so. First on that list is Bayonetta 3. So Platinum Games has been hitting it out of the park lately with Nier.
Yep.
They've never fucked up a Bayonetta game, and I really want to see another Bayonetta, and I know Nintendo helped them out with Bayonetta 2. Maybe we're going to see a 3rd installment in that franchise, and I mean, they can't do wrong by me, at least in the Bayonetta series.
I mean, now that I've played Nier and see what they're capable of, I'm definitely... I still have to play the first 2, but...
Oh, yeah.
Platinum Games has gotten my attention since I've played Nier, you know? And
as they should.
Usually for me, you know, I talked about this when I talk about Nier, is like, combat for me is normally secondary, but they do such a good job with combat that it's like, instead of fast traveling just to avoid combat, I'll walk to a location to just partake in basically meaningless combat just because it's fun to do and fun to watch. Because it's not only is it good, like the combos, and it feels good, but it's very stylish too in both cases, especially Bayonetta, which is always over the top and borderline sexualized and
sexualized. Yeah, but the thing is that with Bayonetta and like you said, like with Nier, is that even the smallest, most pointless fights always feel exciting. There's always something new to try out, whether you got a new weapon or you have a new combo you need to try. You always end up feeling like a badass on how you're doing it. You just press a bunch of buttons, or if you even learn the button combinations, which the game encourages, then you feel really rewarded when you see like a really cool choreographed battle on screen. And I know that if we get a Bayonetta 3, that first of all having that on the go, and secondly getting that with better graphics would be more than perfect for me. So that's more likely than the next couple we're going to see here. So there's also a chance we'll get maybe a new Donkey Kong. I'm not putting all my cards on that, but we could see one in the likes of Donkey Kong Country Returns, where it's a side-scroller. We could see a Donkey Kong 64 style game where it's free roam or with different levels in a hub world. I'm not really sure what I would want from a new Donkey Kong. I feel like I would just entrust Nintendo to put some new gimmick to make it really exciting. I don't think this is the most likely game we're going to see at Nintendo's conference, but it's just one of their franchises that they have the chance to.
You never know when they'll just throw a curveball out there. It's like, oh, here's something people will like, and we just happen to be doing it, you know?
Yeah, there's just as much of a chance of us getting some Kirby game on the Switch at this point. Which again, we've gotten a bunch on the 3DS, so I'm not totally hopeful we're going to be getting one on the Switch. Then, that takes us to a big rumored one, which is the Pokemon Switch game. And now this could be one of 3 things that we're going to see here. We're either going to get the 3rd version of Sun and Moon on Switch. It's going to be Stars, I guess, is what the rumored name for it. So does that mean we're going to get basically the same game, but with both Pokemon, the Pokemon from both versions in it, but the same exact idea? Or are we going to get a much more graphically impressive version?
I would think so. If you're going to bother taking a game like that and putting it on a home console, you got to make it worth, because I know Switch is also very mobile, but just in general, why you gotta ask, why would I get it for the Switch and not for the 3DS? Well, if you make it look a lot better, that's a huge selling point. Because I know I've talked to a lot of people, and I've seen pictures on Reddit and stuff, imagine a Pokemon game with Skyrim graphics or something like that, or like a Skyrim-esque feel to it, or something like that. And even me, and I don't play a lot of Pokemon, I'd be like, that would get my attention,
But then that begs the question, will it be the 3rd version of Sun and Moon, or will it just be its own thing altogether in the likes of Pokemon Stadium or Pokemon Coliseum, where the console versions are always a bit different
Yeah.
than the handheld versions. So it's not really part of the main series. It's more of its own thing. And I have to say, I think I would expect that more. But there are also some people who are crossing their fingers and hoping it's some sort of huge remaster, remake of Red and Yellow, but in great graphics and maybe more cinematic sense. I'm not really sure how that would work. I guess it would just be the exact same game, but just really, really graphically impressive. At this point, I'm betting on the second, which was just an entirely new game in the likes of Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon Stadium.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd be down for a new Pokemon Stadium game. Those were fun games. Or Pokemon Snap.
Oh, right, because you even have the portable part, right? So I mean, they could probably figure something out with that. I'm interested to see how they figure out the new Pokemon. Finally, though, this is all it would take to get me to buy a Switch, and this is what I think a lot of people want. I just want a new Metroid game. This is my false hope for Nintendo.
A lot of people
just
give us Metroid.
But the thing is, I have to be careful with how I word that, because Nintendo, if you're listening, we don't want another Federation Force or a basketball game. Just make it just a simple. It could be anything. Honestly, if it's a side-scrolling one in the likes of Super Metroid, or even if it's a Metroid Prime spiritual successor. I know a lot of people wouldn't be happy if it was more like Other M, because that one wasn't too popular. But Metroid Prime style first-person shooter, I'd be sold. If it was a side-scrolling, a classic style Metroid game, I'd be sold. And I know I'm not the only one here. I don't know why Nintendo's really, holding off on this. But
say that a lot of companies, why is Valve holding on in Half-Life 3? Why?
But they're making games. Valve isn't making games at all. But
different circumstances.
Yeah.
But just in general, a lot of time you ask the question like, they got something that's literally a gold mine, and they're not tapping it.
Well, they've mentioned a few times their reasoning for it. But I feel like it doesn't feel sincere. It doesn't really feel like a good reason. It just seems like they're. Like, they gave us Federation Force. They're like, oh, you want another Metroid game? Here. And everyone's like, no. And they're like, well, look at this. No one wants a new Metroid game. But that's not the case. We all want a new Metroid, but that's a Metroid game. At least let's play as Samus. I feel like that's the bare minimum requirement is to play Samus. So, you fight Ridley at some point, and then you shoot people with your hand. That's all I want.
That about sums it up.
Yeah, just make it... I want it simple. Just... it doesn't have to be simple, but I just want a good Metroid game, and it's been a really long time since I last played one of those. So, please, Nintendo. So, right, I guess that'll wrap up.
Yeah, so that'll be it for part 1, which is Nintendo, and now check for part 2, which will be Microsoft, aka the Scorpio Conference.
Oh, yeah.